easiest to code with, and I really enjoy it. So JAMstack 101.0, what are we gonna try to do to cover in like the main stuff? And hopefully we have 2 hours booked in my schedule for this meeting. So what are we gonna cover? We're gonna sign up with a free agility account. That's just to get started so that we have something to work with from a CMS point of view. We're gonna install all the NPM CLI tools that you're gonna need to run a Gatsby website with a CMS. We're gonna get it working locally. So we're gonna get this, basically have this website, which is started from, it's pulling content from Agility, but it's got a fully functioning website with pages and content and all that sort of stuff. Let's get all that running locally first. Let's push it up to GitHub. We're gonna figure out how to do that. I get a GitHub repo going and all that sort of stuff. And we're gonna set a preview and build server on Gatsby Cloud. This is really big because part of being a developer isn't just, hey, it works on my machine, but I want to have this working. Like I want to do this for a real company, for a real gig, where I have a full DevOps pipeline going, where I'm going to work on code locally, push it to GitHub. It's going to automatically get picked up and get ready for a preview and build, so that the folks that are my marketing team or whoever my client or customer is that I'm building this property for, this website or app or whatever, I want them to be able to go in and edit the content and be able to preview and see what they're doing. So this is like real business type tools that you're learning here. And then how can we preview from the CMS? That's a big one. Let's actually hook it up so that inside CMS, we can actually go and preview content online, okay? And all this is gonna be done for free. So I'm hoping everyone can follow along. I hope you all have like your computer terminals, nobody calls them terminals anymore, but your computer environments, your dev environments all set, ready to go. And if you don't, we have a lot of time. And please, if you want me to slow down, I talk really fast. I go fast. I can slow down if you need me to, okay? So please, do the old raise your hand thing or whatever, and then I'll try and keep an eye on that in the Zoom webinar, okay? Cool. Okay, let's see what we can do here. All right, first, just a little bit about JAMstack. Oh, sorry, so that was the 101.0, this is 101.1. So if we get done all that and we still have some time, I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into how Gatsby works inside the code that is in the repo that we're gonna be working with today. I'm gonna go and dig through that and show a little bit underneath the covers about how that's working. I'm gonna show a little bit more about how Agility CMS works in terms of its content that it pulls in with the Gatsby plugin, how it works with pages, and how it actually builds those pages for you. And we'll talk a little bit about deployment options to things like Netlify or Vercel, and how you can get Gatsby websites out there as part of a really simple DevOps pipeline with Gatsby Cloud. All right, so back to DevOps 101. And we talk about static sites and static site generators, which Gatsby is a static site generator. And part of JAMstack, I think, tends to lead us towards, I need to build a static site somehow, so that I can get my website out there and it's gonna be really fast and it's gonna have all those benefits that JAMstack brings. This is what JAMstack DevOps kind of looks like. So we're gonna have content from somewhere. In this case, it's gonna be from Agility CMS, but it could be from anywhere. And in terms of Gatsby, that's usually in the form of Gatsby plugins. And you can write your own. They're not hard to write, but there are hundreds, maybe thousands of them out there that pull content from anywhere. And you can combine all those with your code. So you write a bunch of code to say, hey, I want to pull content from places and I want to build basically markup in React. And that's going to get built on a build server and it's going to turn into static HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So that's how that works. And the idea is, of course, as part of the deployment, we want to take that static stuff and we put it somewhere. We're going to actually deploy it. So hopefully, if we get into a little further beyond, we're going to deploy it somewhere. There's like some kind of blob storage. It could be Netlify. Vercel has great options, but it could be things like Amazon S3, and there's lots of different places we can put this stuff. And then obviously have it on a CDN. So some services like Netlify and Vercel, they have the kind of storage and the CDN all as one to make it even easier to deploy. So we'll take a look at that. But that's like what we're trying to get to with this 101 is like, this is how do you actually get started with this? Well, we're using Gatsby today. Gatsby is probably one of the most exciting technologies on the planet right now. Company is growing incredibly fast. But the technology has been around since 2015. It's not new, but it has been refined many, many times. They've gone through a gajillion iterations, and on their tools, there's new versions of it daily where they tweak little things here and there. And the basis of sort of the genius of Gatsby is that it starts with this GraphQL engine that is like built into the CLI tool. So I don't need to have a GraphQL server that I'm pulling content from. It has GraphQL built into its CLI, into its tool, and it uses that to get to access the content. So part of that content, it could be up from a plugin like the Agility plugin for Gatsby, the source plugin, and there are, as I say, lots of source plugins. Agility just has one. It basically says, give you content, and it can give you pages. Those are the two kind of things that you can sort of create inside Gatsby, and Agility provides both of those. But other plugins could provide literally anything, and it could be the things where they're providing content, but it also where they're creating pages or creating other things in the background where it like just provides functionality. These plugins do literally everything. Those are going to be used in your React code, and we're going to show a little bit about how to do that today. How to work with that React code and what it looks like. Apologize if I sort of pause every once in a while. I keep looking. I have two screens going, and my second screen has like all the attendees, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat and the questions and everything. No questions so far, so we're good. And then that goes through a build process. So there's two kind of build processes with Gatsby. One is a preview process, which is kind of like a micro build, but it's like that's like a live server. A preview server is like allows you to run it live. With content, but then the actual real build process is what generates that static HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So they've got kind of two things going on. So part of the reason that Gatsby is so exciting is it has this yeah, it builds great websites that you can deploy, but it also has this preview mode. And preview mode is really, really important because it allows people editing the content and you who are editing the code to really quickly get feedback on what you're working on. And we'll see that in a little while. So let's get started. Are we ready to go? Any questions so far before I jump into the code and all those things? You have a second because it's going to take me a minute to get my screen. I made the mistake of restarting my computer just before this webinar thinking, oh, that'll be really smart. And it took a little longer to come back on. So I don't have as many things set up as I'd like. But the first thing we're going to do is, okay, everyone have a web browser? We're going to go to the Agility CMS website. Follow along with me. You got it? We're going to click on try for free. All right, you got to fill in a few fields. We are making this easier soon. It's going to be like, you know, create an account with GitHub or something like that. We're not quite there yet. If you've already done an Agility CMS account, you feel free to use that one, unless you totally borked it and filled it full of stuff, in which case just use another email address and I won't tell. I've created a lot of these. And tell our marketing team who you are. Hi. We will send you emails after this. You can delete them or you can read them. They're actually pretty good. A lot of good content in there. So this is basically going to create me an Agility account. Again, this is free forever. So you can use this forever. This is going to actually provision the account and you give it whatever name you want. Okay, so if you can basically use this as a project or as your portfolio website or whatever. I wouldn't turn this if you're thinking about using CMS and using, you know, Gatsby and whatever, have this as like your test project that you can go and mess around with and do stuff. If you're doing a real project for a customer, use another email account to sign in. If you want to start from a free account, you can totally do that. Or talk to us about how that needs to work in terms of like, you know, what kind of project it is, how big is it, what are your needs? We really like to help you get on the right sort of track with that. If you want to start from another free account, absolutely go ahead, do that, especially if you're just playing around. But let's type this in. Let's get going here. Okay, so this is June 3rd. I'm going to do a June 3rd account. Here we go. Let's call it June-3. All right, so that'll take a second to provision. Hopefully that works for everybody. So that's basically going in the background and creating all the cloud resources I need in Agility to basically run my content. And it'll bring me to the content manager. And it'll show me a pop-up, which we can get rid of. There's another webinar, by the way. That pop-up is important because it's showing a webinar tomorrow with the Agility CMS CEO and myself talking about the content-first approach. So that's one of the things that we at Agility are really big on is content first. Think about the content before you build your website or your app. and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So we'll have a lot to talk about that tomorrow. Okay, is everybody with me? Are we all good? Maybe just throw something in the chat if you're good. Some kind of feedback, because it's really quiet right now and I'm a little lonely. So far, so good. Got a few people. Okay, I mean that was pretty straightforward. Really, nothing could break so far. Okay, so now we're on the dashboard. We don't even have to go into agility to get started in Gatsby, although we'll come back in a second. But basically on the front page, and it's literally the first tab if you scroll down, Developing with Agility CMS, there's a whole section called Gatsby, okay? And there's a video you can watch there. It's super short and it's super basic, but just below that, it actually shows you everything you need to do. So if you haven't done this already, and I'm gonna actually go ahead and do this too. So I'm gonna open up a terminal window. Okay. And I'm in Mac OS, but it doesn't matter if you're on Windows. If on Mac OS, I find usually if I'm going to do an npm-g, so for a global install, I'll run it under sudo. I don't even know if I need to, but I just do it anyway, because then I don't have any errors with file permissions and stuff. Adrian, hopefully you're okay with an older account. If you're not, then it won't take very long to go back and create another one if you need to with a different email address. If you want to get a free one. We do allow only one free account per email address, just because we don't want people blowing the system up completely. But I'm also like, hey, if you need a free account, go build a free account to try something out and get it going. And then, you know, if it's for a real customer, for a client, and you need to go beyond the, like, I think we give you 1,000 items for free or something, then we can talk about upgrading it or whatever and move the to like, there's a version called Nano, which gives you like 5,000 items, and it's pretty simple. Okay, so I've installed the Gatsby CLI. New versions of this come out all the time, by the way, but so you just kind of keep an eye on it. What's really cool is that when you run Gatsby commands and your CLI is out of date, it'll actually show error. Gatsby CLI has been updated. Get the new version. So you can just go ahead and do that. All right, so we have that. Now we need to actually create a new Gatsby site, okay? And we're going to use the Gatsby command. Don't go too fast. Put it in the right folder first. I'm in the root folder right now. So if I just do an ls, I'm actually in like my root of my user folder because on my default terminal. So I'm going to actually get into the folder I want to put this into. All right, so I'm just going to cd into like where I do most of my development. I think I've got a dev folder. Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to do, and this, but it will make a directory called whatever your thing is. And you don't have to call it Gatsby starter. So if we just look at this, we're going to use the Gatsby CLI, and basically it's going to create a new site. So that's the new command. It's going to, this is the name of the site that we're creating. Okay, so I'm actually going to call this June 3, and this is basically the name of the starter that we're going to use. So this is the, you know, basically this is the agility, the GitHub repo where this is. So let's just kind of copy this. That's easy. I'll jam that into your terminal, and I'm just going to jump back here and change the name a little bit to make it not called Agility Gatsby Starter, because I've already got like 6 of those. All right, so I'm going to call this, you know, June 3. There we go. And I click go. This will take a minute. This basically creates, it pulls down that repo from GitHub. It does an npm install, I believe, and does all the things I need to get going. So that takes a second. Gives you a second to kind of reflect, and think on things, and wonder how many gajillions of files are being downloaded to my computer right now in the node underscore modules. There are lots, but it's good. NPM solves so many problems, creates other problems, but solves a lot of problems. I like it a lot better than in the .NET world we have NuGet, which in its day was amazing until it turned into NuGet hell. It's a little better in versions of .NET Core, but I am a 100% JAMstack convert. Okay, so while that's going, I'm gonna actually get my editor ready. So I use Visual Studio Code, so I have that here. I'm going to kind of jump the gun and click open folder and find where I put that thing. So here, just look at Joel's file system. That's gonna be fun. Here we go, June 3, and open that up. All right, so hopefully I didn't kill anything. So I have that running in the background. It's doing a lot of stuff, man. I don't even know if there's errors. I don't think it's erroring. I think it's just like, I don't know, doing its thing. It's almost there. I added 2,406 packages. I think it worked. I think we're good. Okay. All right, I clear that terminal window. From now on, I'm going to actually use the terminal that's built into Visual Studio Code. Not everyone does this, but I do this and I like it. So I just go terminal, new terminal, but I also use the Control tilde shortcut. There you go. All good. Install of CLI is taking a while. If you can put the command in the chat, just in case, that would help if someone like me is a little behind. Okay, I'm going to totally do that. Oh, wait, you got a command. If somebody errored, hang on, let's slow down a sec. Catherine Pollock, command failed with execute 1 npm install. Okay, Catherine, was that, that was on the install of the Gatsby CLI? You may need to run it as sudo. And David, so the best version of Node and NPM is, let's just check. I think I'm on the latest. So I'm on 12.16.3. I think I had to do some updating of that. I don't know if there's a new version of Node. And let's see. For NPM, I'm on, this is what I'm on, 6.14.4. So I'm not sure what the best one is. I try to stay up to date as sort of latest as possible. But I haven't got to a point where, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't updated that because what I just updated broke a bunch of stuff. So normally with Gatsby, I try to, as I go through stuff, I try to stay on top of what's happening to stay with as latest as possible. Although like these things update so much, it's hard to keep track. So a good question. I don't really know. Try to stay on the latest. Okay. So Catherine, were you able to get it installed? Is everything okay? I don't want to go too far ahead for people. I will say that those commands are on literally on your, oh, it looks like maybe some errors. Cannot find module, something. I'm running with sudo, I get internal. Okay, so Catherine, if you have the Gatsby CLI already, maybe you're okay. It looks like it might be having some weird problems with something somewhere. Hopefully it's okay. Let's just push forward and hopefully you're gonna be all right. It does take a little while and sometimes it errors. That's weird. I've never seen it error with sudo. Usually it errors without sudo. You might have another process running actually. If you were running Gatsby in another process, or if you have Node running. So one of the things you can do is just like run your activity monitor and wait for that to load. And then you actually just search for Node. And if you have a bunch of Node processes, it could be that you have a Node process, or I don't think Gatsby actually has its own like process name, but you can search for that too. I don't think it does. I think it just they all run under Node. So you can do that and try to kill any Node processes maybe. So that's a weird one. I have not seen that before. Hopefully it doesn't stop you from getting to the point where you're able to do stuff. Okay, now we're actually going to follow along. Let's jump back to here. So this basically says, hey, set up your your environment files and set your API keys. There's actually a README in this that tells you a lot. It's a Markdown file. So if you like reading Markdown, that's awesome. Or you can use the handy Markdown preview inside here. So let's just do that. Yay. Nice little trick if you didn't know it was there. I don't think I have any special plugin that's doing this either. I think that's just part of Visual Studio Code. At any rate, so yeah, the Headless CMS team has set up a lot here around basically the same thing. So we have like how to get started on Gatsby like many times. The most important thing now is now that we've got like everything pulled down, we created our site, we do need to get our environment set up, okay? So you can see there's an env.development.example. We need to take off the .example there and make it .env.development, all right? And when you do that, you can see that it kind of grays out because that's in a git ignore. So our .git ignore, just jump into that for a second, has basically a thing that says, hey, if it's a .env.production or end development, these are like environment files. Don't check those in because we're going to put like keys in there that we don't want to have in source control. Anytime you're checking something into GitHub, be very careful that you don't have any keys in there or passwords or whatever, because those are now public on the internet and everyone's on GitHub and it is highly indexed. So I'm sure everyone has like, you know, tales from like my cousin who did that one time and boy, was that awful. So that's, yeah, don't do that. Be very careful. This is why we set this up like this. Yeah, been there. Yeah, I actually had a phone call from a colleague that it was involved that, and man, oh man, that was the scary times. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to get our keys, all right? So it's asking me to jump back here. Let's look at the .env.production. It's asking me for the agility GUID and the agility API key, right? Now there are two keys that we care about. We click on API keys. Make the window a little bigger here. And then I'm gonna click on show API keys. So here's my instance GUID here. So you can see it's really hard to see. I'm gonna click copy on that first. And I'm gonna paste that into here. Boom, I got my GUID, awesome. Now I need the API key. So I want to do preview mode locally. So I'm gonna get the preview API key. There's two steps here. You gotta click show, then you gotta click copy. And it'll say copied, all right? And then you're gonna paste that in here. Then you're gonna remember to save it. Cool. In case you're wondering, I am using the GitHub Plus Lite theme in Visual Studio Code. I'm one of those people, in the daytime, I like the light theme. In the nighttime, I like the dark theme. Oh, Caroline. Caroline says she's having a little problem here. Okay, so when I open VS Code and try to open the new agility set, I can't find it on my computer. Is there somewhere it would have been saved automatically? Okay, if you still have your terminal window open, still stuck, oh, Catherine Pollock, still stuck with same errors. Okay, so we got two people that are having problems. Let's try and work with these. I'm gonna just slow down a little bit here. So Catherine, were you able to, one of the things you might want to try, by the way, first of all, if anyone has any suggestions here, I would be open to that because I've never seen these errors before. So she's got them, I think she sent them to, only to the panelists. So the error is cannot find module, yeah, this is what it looks like. Running with sudo, I get, oh, Alpanis and Altendis. She sent it to everybody now. So yeah, on loader.js line 584. I don't know if anyone has seen that before. I've never seen it before. One of the things you could try is completely removing the Gatsby CLI and reinstalling it. And maybe check the node version. That's a good point too. You check node version by going node-v. Okay, so it could be that you need to upgrade Node. That could be a thing. Because my Node version that I'm running is, yeah, 12.16. It could be that it needs Node 12. That's not going to be fun. So to get the latest version of Node, I can't remember how to do that. I think it's an NPM thing. There you go. Wow, this is a fun command. How to update Node.js using Node Version Manager. NVM. I've never used NVM. I use NPM. NPM is the largest. NPM, here you go. Wow. Don't show me the wrong way. Do this. So where's the command here? Sorry about this. Node Version Manager. Okay, that is no fun. Is a Node Version Manager. Look at that. It's pretty cool. All right. So if you can use NVM, that's cool too. How to update it using, wow, everyone's got like so many articles that tell us how to do different things. Wow, this Node Version Manager is a thing. That's funny, I've never heard of it before. So there's lots of things you can do there. Wow. Oh, here we go, option 2. First, clear the NPM cache. So that's a fun one, NPM cache clean F. So there's that command. And then npm install gn. This one you might need to do sudo, but I'm not sure. It's amazing how having these problems can really slow you down because all of a sudden we're stuck. The other thing you can do is actually download this from Node, nodejs.org. And they give you, I think they do give you other ways to do this as well. So there you go. Hopefully you can get up to the latest version and catch up to us. I don't want to slow down too much, but I also don't want to leave you behind. All right, cool. Hopefully that'll work. It shouldn't be too hard to catch up though. And this, by the way, this recording, I will, as I said, I will post this on my own Twitter, and I'll get my marketing team to post this on the, what am I saying? On the @Agility CMS Twitter as well, in case you're following them and not me. Cool. All right. What's awesome is we're actually ready to rock here. So we pulled down our environment files. We don't have to do anything else. I can just preview this site now. Okay. I don't know if that tells me in the preview. Yeah, it does. Yeah, this has some extra stuff, but really at this point now, since we did all this stuff, I just need to run npm start. So that's going to take a second. What this is actually doing right now is running all the plugins that are registered on this site. And I think the only one is that it's running Agility. And what Agility is doing right now, the Agility plugin, is actually saying, hey, I'm in preview mode, pull down all the content on that basically Agility instance, pull it all down, put it into GraphQL, and build the pages and content items that I need to use. So it does all that and does that all in the background for you, which is really, really awesome. And now, after only a few seconds, depends on how fast your computer is, you can basically run this thing. So I'm just gonna basically run it, and there you go. It ran. Here's my little blog, my example. We call it the Headless Sandbox. Hopefully that'll work for everybody. Worked for me. Works on my machine. Where can I find my Agility site on my computer? Trying to find it from VS Code. Oh, okay. So Carolyn, I apologize. I should have answered this question. So back in your terminal window, do I still have mine running? Let's see. Where's my terminal window? So I'm having a hard time even finding windows because, okay, here we go. Here's my terminal window. All right. So what you can do is under wherever your terminal window is, if you still have that open, just type the command ls and it'll tell you where you're at, where you are. So I'm right now, I can see all the other folders that are there. And if you open so this is like, I'm in my root folder of everything. And you could tell that I actually accidentally installed an npm package here at some point. Right, and if you open up like your Finder, you could see, so in my root, like here's all of the stuff for me. And this is where I accidentally installed something, and I'm gonna go take this opportunity to go and delete that. So that's where that folder is. And then, so from VS Code, you can actually just go open folder and find that. If you literally can't find it, then what I would do is, CD to the place where your stuff is. So like your documents folder or whatever. Remember that, and then open that from VS Code. All right. Yeah, it can be one of the most frustrating things. It's like, where did I put that thing? I thought it was easy. So hopefully you can find that. Okay. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So Adrian, all right. So through an error while running the source node's lifecycle, you must provide a GUID. Okay. So Adrian, what I would say is check that you have your .env.development file, and check that it looks like this, where you have agility GUID equals, obviously not the same GUID as me, but it has your GUID. Looks like David Almond's is good. Could not get the sitemap node for channel website. So Vladimir could not get the sitemap nodes for channel website. And that's weird. Are these sites, so Adrian and Vladimir, did you just create them now, or were they old Agility like free accounts? Old free. Okay, Adrian, I would say I would create a new one. It could be that something is wrong with those accounts or they got messed up. It's weird. It should be working. Sounds odd, but it could be that there was like a blank instance that you didn't create a blog instance. So when you're actually creating an account, so I'm just going to go into back here. So let's create another one. It could be that you created blank instances and not blog instances, which you might not have even noticed when you were doing it. But when you come through here and you go to the next step, just leave it on the default blog. So I would go ahead and create another one if you don't mind. You don't have to read down anything from GitHub. It's just, it'll give you a different GUID on it. Amazing. Cool. So hopefully folks are kind of catching up. What I'm going to do while folks are catching up and getting through, I want to show a little secret because this has a fourth command here called enable Gatsby refresh endpoint equals true. What that does is it adds the ability to do __ refresh. Okay. So that is actually a curl command, and I have to open another. I actually put this in another README on another file somewhere. So give me a second while I find it. I have it in the in the Agility website. I use this all the time. And I always have to look it up because I can never remember what it is. So we can do a little curl command. This is a little secret one. So if you open up a second terminal window, this is one of the things I like about Visual Studio Code is I can actually split this window into two and paste in this. Now, if I've actually made any changes to the content in Agility, I can actually refresh my local content store without having to refresh anything. And this is gold when you're actually developing. One of the things I like the most about working with React is hot reloading. And I'm just going to demonstrate that right now while people are catching up to me with the thing. So let's just actually magnet's running right here. So let's just get this over. Come on, go over there. All right, magnet's being a bit of a jerk. Let's go right, there you go. And then I want to put you over here. I'm using Magnet, by the way. Very worthwhile Mac app. Okay, cool. All right, so we have this over there. So let's just show changing some code and have it automatically updating. Or sorry, changing some content, I should say. So I'm just gonna go into my pages section in Agility. And I'm gonna change something like pretty small. And takes a second to open first time. All right, so, you know, maybe I want to change the page title to not be home and like for my site, I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna click save on that. I don't have to publish it or anything because now I'm using my preview key. All right, now it won't automatically update over here, right? Because there was no webhook set up yet or anything like that to my local machine. That's not a thing. But if I just run this command, and by the way, if you didn't know, I can just hit my up arrow to run the same command again. And that's also awesome. So if I just run that again, I don't even have to do anything to get the new content. You can see my title changed, home for my site, automatically. So that's just a really nice thing. I don't have to do a rebuild or anything like that, and all good. Vladimir, a new account, make it awesome. All right, I think everyone's with me. Hopefully everyone's all good. I really, really hope that you're this far along and we're okay. So I'm gonna make this window big again. All right, so we have everything running there. The next step, obviously we would do a bunch of development and do a bunch of stuff, but I want to actually make sure that you are sort of understanding the importance of DevOps and getting everything going. So I'm gonna ask you to log on to GitHub, okay? Jump into GitHub and create a new repo. Let's do this. New repository. Okay, I'm going to create one. I'm going to call it June 4. You can go delete it later if you don't want it. Doesn't matter. You can make it private if you want. That's fine too. If you don't want anyone to see your code, I'm going to make it public. I don't really care. And I'm going to click create repository. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to do that. It just takes a second. And if everyone has a problem with that one, I can slow down. This is pretty straightforward stuff. But you might not actually have a GitHub account, but in which case, go create one. It's one of the most useful things to have. Hopefully you all do. But after this, you all will. So one of the cool things that GitHub gives you is some like how to get started with GitHub before you have to do anything, okay? And what's cool is we already have like our local directory with all this we've got this project created already locally, so we're good. All we need to do is get it up into this new repository we created. So we can just call git remote. We just basically copy this command here first. Okay, I'm going to do a Control-C to stop my server running. I'm going to paste that in. So hopefully that works for me. It worked. Good. Yeah, the wrapping was a little weird, but that's good. So it basically just sets, hey, it tells my local Git repository, it's like, hey, this is the new remote spot. And then I can call git push -u/ or origin master. So what's this going to do is like, hey, push everything that I've got, push it up to master. And hopefully that worked. So now I just refresh this in GitHub, and hey, all my files are up in GitHub. And now I can do so many more things, which is cool. So we're all ready. And the cool thing is there's a nice README there. So if I actually wanted to go through some more stuff, and I totally think you should spend some time reading some of this stuff through, but pretty much we've actually followed everything all the way to here. And this has some nice things. It actually has like a deploy button for, actually says Zeit, but Zeit has been rebranded with Vercel. Has it deployed in Netlify and all that sort of stuff. But we're not going to do that right now because we don't want to deploy it. Like we're not ready to deploy a build version of our site. I want to deploy preview because this is just getting started. This is like the beginning of a project kind of a thing. I want to get people to be able to, people that aren't developers to be writing some code, some content in. They don't do any code, but they just type some content in and they can see changes. That's the kind of magic where it's like, it's a little bit beyond, hey, take a look at my machine. They can actually see it online. That's when it's real. So for that, we're going to create an account in Gatsby Cloud. So we're going to go to gatsbyjs.com. And this is where I figured everyone would probably have a GitHub account, but you might not have a Gatsby Cloud account. Again, this is also free. Okay, just a show of hands. Does anyone already have a Gatsby Cloud account? Just wondering if you do. I'd be interested to hear that. Nope. Okay, so you're gonna go get started for free or log in if you already have an account. So on the get started for free, you're gonna say, I already have a Gatsby site. You actually have one, okay? Click get started for free because you already have the site locally. This actually tells you, basically goes through a starter. And the funny thing is, there actually is a starter for, I think there's a starter package for, no, it's not showing up here. There is a way to get started just with agility in here, like not from code. But as a developer, we always get started from code, usually. So I already have a Gatsby site, connect it all up, and it actually, for me, so it has a bunch of stuff and it asks you for some stuff. I'm already logged in. So I'm actually just going to go back to my, I think it got messed up because I already have an account, but if you're just doing this normally, just do all your stuff here and you can actually log in with your GitHub account. For me, I'm going to sign out and sign back in. Sign in with GitHub. There you go. I promise it's actually a little easier if you don't have an account yet. I clicked through some of the stuff that we don't need. Anyway. So that'll get you a free account. You can see under my organization called Joel Vardy, it creates me, there's a free account, okay? I'm not gonna use my free account because I already burned through all my free credits. It gives you 25 like builds a day, but I actually have a pro account because the agility website is actually on Gatsby Cloud. So we use this for our own website. So I click create new site. And the same thing, I already have a Gatsby site, it's all good. So now it's going to ask me to pick a repository. So I'm going to use the Joel Vardy. Hopefully it lets me do this. I'm going to use the June 4 repository. And I'm going to use my master branch and this. So for future projects, typically what you'll do is have a master branch where that's where it's like whenever I do a check-in to master, or if I do a pull request, it goes to master from another branch, it will trigger a build of my main website. What's really awesome is if you have other branches they will also trigger builds so that I can go and preview a branch of my site with the content of the site without having to do anything special. So that's awesome. If you're at the integrations part, hopefully everybody's there by now. So we picked the repository. You may have had to like grant access for Gatsby to talk to your repositories and stuff. So some stuff to go through there. Then you get to the integrations page after that. You can actually click skip this step. This is for people that actually don't have anything set up and there are like, hey, agility as one of these things. Don't worry about that. We're already integrated with agility. We're good. You have a CMS set up. And I don't know if there's too many people that do both CMSs. You could actually have multiple CMSs pushing content into a Gatsby site. I haven't done it before, but you totally can. Okay, branch to build from his master. Cool. Then we get to this site where, remember those .env files that we had? Well, what Gatsby did was it actually looked at the source code and said, hey, are they reading any environment variables? Let's pull them out and show them. So we've got 3. So this is for preview. There's going to actually do 2 versions of my build. It's going to do a preview build, and it's going to do an actual build, okay? So agility is preview. For preview build, I want to say true, because we're previewing that. I'm going to spell the word true right, okay? So just put that in as true. Again, we're going to need that API key and GUID that we had before. So I'm going to go back to here, go back to the getting started, click on API keys. Hopefully everyone's following along with this okay. I'm going to grab that GUID, pop that back in here. I'm going to grab my preview API key again, pop that back in here, and save those. So that's my preview all set up. Oh, geez. I'm not in Jovardi. Oh, goodness. Did the wrong thing. I may actually have to create a different account for this to work because it put me into overage. Darn it. This is not what I wanted to have happen. You know what? I'm going to do a whole new repo. I think I need to do it under the agility repo because I have an organization. Let me backtrack for a second. We'll do this as private because it's under my organization. Don't tell anyone else that I'm doing this. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's change the remote. Oh, geez. Oh, darn. Okay, hang on. Give me a second here. I have to destroy the Git. I may have to redo some of this work. Give me a second here. Oh, gotta love live coding. It's awesome. Okay, here we go. Let's go. How do I destroy? I can't remember how to remove a remote. Hang on. All these things you don't normally have to do. Close repository. I want to remember how to like uninit Git to remove Git. Let's just Google it real quick. Git remove. Ah, nice. Thanks, Vladimir. You can never stop learning. There you go. All right, so I got that. I'm going to re-enable this repository here. Go boom. Upload. Some people are probably faster at actually typing all the stuff in than me, but okay, here we go. Got that. Sign in again. All right. Hopefully we're all good. All right, so hopefully I can catch up to you guys now. I'm going to create a new site on agility. I already have a Gatsby site. Yep. Repository there. Okay. Oh, geez. I may have to do something here. It's not letting me pick my repository. I can't remember why. This one, maybe because it's private, I'm not sure. There also could be where I have integrations, third-party access. I may need to give third-party access to, nope, not that one. Hang on. Yeah, we only give it to select repositories. Getting a little deeper into the integrations here. Okay, that's good. All right, I give it access to that repository. Normally it gives all access to all repositories, but I think we must have locked it down. Okay, now it should find it. There it is. Phew. All right, so now I'm back to where I was before. All right, almost there. Thanks for your patience, guys. All right, I'm gonna skip that step. All good. All right, back to the environment variables. Copy that. Copy that. Copy that. Oops, wrong one. That's my API key. That's the word true. Catherine Pollock made it past the air by reinstalling Node. Awesome. Well, you know, you're probably going to catch up to me very soon because I've been not the best presenter at the moment. I'm doing my best, I promise. Okay, so I have the preview set up. Sorry, I didn't really talk you guys through the preview set. I think it's fairly straightforward. On the builds environment variables, okay, is previews now going to be, you guessed it, false. My API key is going to be the live API key. So this is when content is actually published. Boom, pop that in there. And I need to do it again. Copy that. All right, so now that we've copied and pasted 900 things, no, 6 things, we're good. All right, everything's all set. I think we're ready to go. Create the site. So now Gatsby's gonna do the provisioning for us. It's actually gonna go and do a build of both production. So everything that's published in Agility is gonna be brought down as content. And then it's actually gonna, and it's over here on the right, it's gonna do a preview build right over here. And this is gonna give us a URL that's used by Gatsby that we sort of, that's like a public URL. Now you can put a password behind it to, if you don't want it, you know, if you don't want that getting leaked out somewhere. So this is gonna do this build. So this may take a couple seconds. We can actually view the details. We can see the logs. It's literally doing pretty much exactly the same thing as we ran in our own thing. So it's gonna like clone my repository and do all that stuff and whatnot. Seems to be taking a little while. It's running, oh yeah, it does that npm install. So, you know, it has to install like however many packages. That's for fun. Let's just go see how many packages were in this project by default. That's a lot of scrolling. That's a lot. So it's a lot. My goodness, it does a lot of things. Here we go. It'll be there soon. Funnily enough, when I did this as a test this morning, it only took like 10 seconds to build. So this is fun. So just looking at a few of the other settings that are in here. Remember how I mentioned branches? So when I add a branch to this repository, so say you're working on a new feature and you add a new branch, it will actually do a build in there so that you can actually look at, it'll give you a URL just to view that branch. And I'm going to show you that on another site. I'm actually going to show you the Agility website for a second. So this is the Agility website on Gatsby. You can see I've got 2 branches. So when I click on branches, so this is my main build URL. This is a unique URL for each build. That's another thing you get is like this is the build of that site. But if I check branches, it actually gives me I built in the events section, which is a fairly new part of the site. It actually built that, and I can actually look at that. And now for that branch, I can preview it and look at it in live as well. So as you make changes to your code and potentially certain pieces of content, you can actually look at those as well. All right. So I'm going to jump back. Hopefully people have been able to catch up and, oh, looks like the build is done. All right. So let's do production first, see if that works. All right. So that should work. And it's good. And there's no little preview window little thing here. So I'm good. This is actually live. This is the full website live, okay? There's not a whole lot going on, but we'll go through that in a second. And if I click on preview over here, I've got this URL does not change. It is a unique looking URL, but it doesn't change from preview to preview as I like check new code in. And you see you've got a little thing saying, hey, I'm in preview mode, all right? So that's not gonna change. So why don't we copy that if it works? Hopefully it works for everybody. I'm not seeing anybody texting me saying it's not working, so hopefully it's good. All right, and what I'm gonna do, we're gonna go back to Agility. Now follow along with me. It worked, yes. Okay, we're good. All right, so go to settings, all right? And don't freak out. There's a lot of settings in Agility, okay? I know there's a lot of things. We don't have to look at all of them. We're only gonna look at one. We're gonna look at domain configuration first. Okay, and because Agility has like page management built in, it actually has a connection it wants to have a connection between your website, okay? Because it's like, hey, because we understand that, yeah, you can use content for anything. It could be for an app, could be for anything, but most of the time you want to drive content to your main digital property, which is a website. So by default, there's a website sort of domain configuration set up for you that doesn't point anywhere. It doesn't point to an actual domain, okay? So we're going to add one. So go into that website domain and click plus. And we're going to call this preview. We're going to set up previewing from Agility right now. And the domain URL, I'm going to paste that in. This is going to go to Gatsby. And I'm going to say, hey, this is the preview domain, right? Now, if I had deployed this to like a Netlify or Vercel, I could set that as my production domain if it was a different one. So you can set up, usually there's one preview and one production domain. We're just going to do the preview domain right now. And we're not going to change any other defaults. Okay, so follow along with me. Click save on that. Click save on the domain configuration. Okay, so by the way, I can't create new domains in here, so that is one of the things. So part of the Agility licensing is to be able to do like multiple sitemaps if you want. We call those multiple channels. So there's only one channel in this website right now by default in a free edition. Okay, but if I actually go into the pages section of Agility, let's do that now. I see that I've got 2 whole pages in there. I've got a home page and I've got my posts page. Actually, I have 30 and the post dynamic page. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if I just go to my home page, all right, I click preview. This is the one that I changed before to show you the word, home for my site kind of thing. Just click preview. And that's going to open this in here. It's going to launch it. And it's pretty cool because, obviously it goes to the right spot and it updates stuff. But what's cool about this too is if I go back and edit this, so back, I don't like it called home for my site. I just want to call it home. And I click save. All right. It won't take very long. It'll take about 5. Oh, wait, I didn't set something. I missed something. There's one more thing I forgot. It will not, just because I did that, this is not going to update because I didn't tell Gatsby that I made a change. We need to set up what's called a webhook. So there's one more thing. Back in the Gatsby dashboard, there's site settings for here, okay? I know we're going through way too many settings at once, but bear with me. Here we go. Again, lots of settings. Wow, people that build web apps love to build tons of settings. I don't know why. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to click on, I think it's under webhook. Okay. Gatsby gives me 2 webhooks out of the box. Okay. It gives me a webhook. Basically, I can, anytime any content changes in the CMS, we can say, hey, go do a rebuild of preview or of the actual build of the site. We're just going to do preview for now. So go to the preview webhook. Hopefully you're there and click copy. All right. Then go back to Agility. Go back to those settings. I promised I would only show you one, but there's more. Okay. By the way, you can see your API keys here as well. But if we'll click on webhooks. All right. And see it's got a little plug beside it. I like that icon. It's a plug. I'm going to plug it in. The URL, we just paste that URL in. Boom. And we want to receive, we don't want to receive content publish events. We want to receive content save events. Anytime anything is saved, then do it. And we can actually test this out. We click send a test payload. Boom, let's do it. So, and Gatsby doesn't really care what we changed. It's like, hey, I need to just refresh everything. So I just did a test payload there and I'm going to click save. So actually what should have happened in the background, if I just go in here and back into Gatsby and just look at my preview for a second. So click on preview. I can see it did a build in like 5 seconds, triggered by Gatsby preview webhook. And if I go to here, all I got to do is focus it. It actually automatically updated. So basically, we've given now our editors the equivalent of hot reload. So think about as a developer, the first time you use hot reloading. I don't know about you, but coming from a .NET world, it was like, boom, so exciting to be able to change some JavaScript code, backend or front end or whatever. I click save and I look over my other window and it updates. Well, you can give that to your editors. Okay, so I can go into here, go back to my pages section of Agility or any section, doesn't really matter. And, let's go into one of these modules. I haven't shown any of this stuff yet, but I will. And, like get excited about something. Click save. Now, it will take like a few seconds, right? It could take like 5 seconds. But if I go to the home page, wait. React blog. Hang on, am I on the right site? June 3rd? I don't think I'm on the right site. This is embarrassing. I think I'm looking at something different. I just had a really weird, it's there. Is it there? Oh, it's right there. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the wrong content. Wow. Thank you for the update, Adrian. You are more awake than I am. There you go. It updated. I didn't even look. I should have changed something more significant. So there you go. no matter what content changes in the CMS, it automatically updates. Okay, cool. We've gone through like the first thing. Worked for me, so must have worked for you. Totally. Well, you know what? Sometimes things break and we don't know why, but it's really awesome. What I love most about Gatsby is that not only is it an amazing tool for development, but it gives you this preview thing and it really shows you all the things that are happening. Okay. Now, that being said, for normal development on a free site, like look how many, we've already triggered 3 webhooks. We only get 25 builds a day, I think, on a free one. So you might want to actually go in just on a free one so you don't blow through all your free builds and disable that webhook. So go into that webhook and go and just uncheck enabled. You can turn it back on later, so you don't have to like whatever, but I'm going to turn it off right now. You might want to turn it off so you don't blow through your free builds, okay? Because it will automatically build when you check code in too. And you can't stop that, and you can't stop a build from happening, okay? So that is one of the things about the Gatsby setup is that you don't have as much control yet. I'm not sure how much they're going to do, but right now you can't stop a build. The only way you can do is just don't check in code or don't fire the webhooks if you don't want to blow through your free builds, okay? When they first came out, they didn't turn it off. So I got like 2,000 builds for free one day when I was first testing it out, but now it will start after about 30 builds, it stops you. So, but yeah, you get 25 updates for free, which is basically builds. Okay. There you go. So that's getting it all onto Gatsby. So we did it through the 101.0. Awesome. Let's dig in back into the Gatsby code because we haven't done any much coding yet. Let's actually look at some code. We've got a whole hour to actually look at the code. This is great. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my Visual Studio Code. Let's look at what's going on here. What's actually happening. The way Gatsby works is it has something called its own configuration, okay? So Gatsby config. And I encourage you all to read more about how Gatsby works on their, so there's two sites, by the way. Let me just show you this for a sec. So there's GatsbyJS.com, which is their Gatsby Cloud. So that's them like, hey, we're building a platform for Gatsby sites that you can pay for. That's how they're going to make money. But Gatsby itself, as an organization, GatsbyJS.org, they're all about open source. So the Gatsby tools, you don't need to build them on Gatsby Cloud. You can build them on Netlify. You can build them on Vercel. You can build them, right in GitHub Actions, whatever. And everybody, by the way, everybody wants you to build on their server. As a developer, that's your power because people want you to build your stuff on their thing. However, a lot of them use free tools to get there, and Gatsby is probably one of the best free tools out there, okay? Tons and tons of stuff in here that tell you about Gatsby.js, okay? What I'm gonna say about it is that the first place that you need to learn is where are your plugins, okay? So if you look at it, there's this module.exports in my Gatsby-config, and then there's this array of plugins, okay? And I'm gonna just look at a few of these things that when you use the agility source that we created, the agility starter, it gives you a few plugins for free, okay? So it uses the Gatsby Netlify plugin to make it really easy to go to Netlify. It uses the React Helmet plugin. Well, Helmet, if you've ever used React Helmet, it allows you to update like the head tag. So that's there out of the box, and I'll show you where that actually outputs. And then we can see here, this is the agility plugin. So on this one, this is where we're mapping the agility config, which was actually up here. We just did a little object to make it easier to say where they're coming from the environment files. So this is where the environment file actually gets read, and that's what Gatsby Cloud parsed to say, hey, am I in preview mode? What's my GUID? What's my API key? That's where it gets mapped. So basically, these plugins can have lots of options. Some of them don't have options. These two have no options. But this one, there's a lot of options, okay? We can turn on debug mode. If you have multiple languages on your site, you can do an array of languages. And this is that channel. Remember we were in the domains, this list of domains, and we just saw one called website? Well, that's this. So we can actually have multiple domains actually come in, like we call them site maps, or you can call them channels, can come into this site. So normally there's only one. And then we can actually say, hey, what's the master page? What's the page that we're going to use to render all of the agility pages in the site? And that's going to agilitypage.js. So you have complete control over how that content gets rendered. And then we're using, this one is also using the plugin Sharp and the transformer Sharp, which James Vidler and I have two different opinions on this, but what this does is it's actually amazing. By default, what this is going to do is download all the images that is referenced in your content and use the Gatsby image plugin to, so he plugged this in, James plugged this in, and it's did a great job, where what it does is it actually pulls down different sizes of each image and puts them right in your content. So like when you deploy this content, it also deploys your images. The Agility website, I didn't build it that way. They just get pulled down through the regular CDN. Different ways you can do that, but this helps you get like super page scores because the images that come in through your HTML source are like teeny tiny. So anyway, but there are tons and tons of plugins out there. Okay, so for one of the things, and then this is where you search gatsbyjs.org, because for instance, what about Google Tag Manager? Well, there's one for that, Google Analytics plugin. So there's a plugin for Google Analytics. There's a plugin for Tag Manager. And basically the documentation for these shows look like this. Hey, if I want to add, Google Analytics, this is how I'm going to put that in there. And then it'll figure it out. And this is another one for Google Tag Manager. Because you have to remember, let's just actually view the site for a second. So this is a site running locally. Let me just start it back up actually. Oops. npm run dev actually just does Gatsby develop under the hood, by the way. I don't know why that didn't actually run, but whatever. Hopefully this is going to work. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So what Gatsby does is it actually renders you the site as plain JavaScript, but then, I can run it on here, but then actually runs it as a client-side app. It runs as an SPA, which is amazing, right? It's so fast, but also creates problems for lots of things like Google Tag Manager where it wants to have page loads and stuff. So this fixes that. So there's all kinds of plugins that do stuff. Sorry, I lost my spot. There's tons and tons of plugins that do many, many things. And there's lots of documentation out there. So we are only using a few. But then there's this Gatsby, so that's the Gatsby config. Under Gatsby node.js, this is your chance to write your own sort of like custom plugin for your site. You can do your own plugins and actually you can either put them in an NPM package and then like pull them down and register them, all that sort of stuff. There is a way to do your own plugins sort of in your own site and put them in like a plugins folder. You can do that. But for just regular, hey, I want to do some small customizations to the site, you can do them in the Gatsby node thing. And there's basically a few different hooks you can use. I'll just collapse these. The ones that are in this one called create resolvers and on create node. So as I said before, there's basically what these plugins do is they pull down content using like fetch or reading from the file system or doing whatever, or doing some kind of logic. And then they hook into the underlying GraphQL engine. And all they do is basically create nodes that have certain basically structures, or read the nodes that are already created is another thing that can happen. So it gives me a way to look at the GraphQL that's created. Let's take a look. So if I run, so localhost 8000 _ _ GraphQL. All right, so if you don't see that anywhere, I'll just paste this here. So if you're running it locally, this is what you see. This is super fun. This shows me all the content that's been pulled into the site. So there's lots of it called agility content. You can see everything that has the word agility in it anywhere, okay? And then there's also files, Image Sharp did some stuff. There's like site and a bunch of other things, okay? So every one of these has basically the back end of a query, okay? So let's look at something that might be interesting. Agility has a list of posts that we made available, okay? One of the pages was called posts. Let's just expand, or that's the wrong one. Let's go all agility post, if I can find it right there. Okay, so I can filter limit. So basically it's a query language, right? I can see the nodes. So nodes is like the children. So I can output some stuff here. Let's just go through it and start doing it. I got my content ID, I got the language code, and I have these fields. So I got my title field. Let's just run that. Boom. I've got 2 posts that are now being pulled, and I figured out my query language for them. And I didn't have to get anything that I didn't want. I could also, if I wanted to output the details, I could do that. But now there's a lot more that got outputted. So if I was doing like a listing, I probably didn't want to put my details in there, right? So, and as I add more fields in the content, they will show up as as available here, okay? So that is like one of the basic concepts of how Gatsby works, okay? And then if you look at how agility works with that, okay? Let's go through the source for a second. Remember that agility page.js? That's our main page. So this is like the page component. In other Gatsby websites, you can build it with like a pages folder where each page has its own component, and and the developer builds the sitemap for you in your file system, okay? And you can have like one where it's like a slug page, sort of like a posts folder, and then I could like have read a post listing and have that be inside there. Agility kind of does that for you, because remember, Agility has a sitemap, right? That's here. If I look at this pages section, it's got this sitemap, and it could have as many pages as I want in it. So I don't need to have a folder structure with my pages, but I do need to say, hey, where do they render to start from? So this is it. And we actually have a GraphQL page query done for you. So what we do out of the box is we say, hey, for every page in the sitemap, give you the full JSON for that page, okay? Comes down as a JavaScript object. And then if that page was like a dynamic page, so it's like a list of posts, we'll give you that too, and call it dynamic page item. And I'll show you that in a second. Okay, we take those, and those are now delivered as the props to every single module underneath that, all right? So we've got this layout template. So if you look at the layout template component, that's a pretty standard component that's like pulling in my CSS and all that sort of stuff that I needed. And then I've got the preview bar. So remember what it said preview over here, right up here? Well, that's just a tiny little component that is actually in here. So if you want to do more stuff on that preview bar or get rid of it or change how it renders, you can totally do that. That's just a component that's in here. So this is all like the source code is given to you. Then there's this global header module. So that's a module that's going to show, or sorry, not a module, sorry, a component that's on every single page. And we pass in, a few things to that as props. And then we have this agility page template. And this is where agility starts to really shine, okay? And so I'm assuming that you'll have some sort of level of React knowledge, but now we're kind of getting into a little bit more of how agility solves these problems in a special way. Click on the homepage for a sec. So if I click on settings of a homepage, I can see this is using a template. So each page, you have to pick a template for it. And as a developer, I went and set this up. Okay, we were able to set these page templates up, and you can do more than one. Let's look at what this page template is. So back in the crazy settings section, let's look at our page templates list. We have a one-page template in here called one column template. And literally all it does is it has a name, and it has a content zone called main content zone, and that's the reference name. And that's all it is. And that's all it is. So what this does is allows me to have my editors go in, or I can do it myself, or anybody can go in and create pages. And let's just go do it. Let's go here, create a page. And now it shows up as the page template that I'm going to use. And now I choose, hey, what does this show up? So when it's on if that page shows up on like a navigation menu, I'm going to call it, maybe like about us or something. The page title will be about us. The page name could be about us, and I can change all those things. I'll click save. Boom. Now I created a page called About Us that'll show up on here, right? Let's actually look at what's happening when that page renders. So there is going to be a page templates folder here, and there's a component in there called one column template, which matches the name of my template that I created, right? Just took the spaces out. And in here, all I do is I just reference my content zone module, which we give you. But you can also, we give you the source code for it too. And now I just say, hey, I want to render this content zone called main content zone and put it in this div with this class name called one column template. So I had my CSS set up, whatever, to look at this class name, and I render this using that name. And then all the props, I just pass them right through. It's like any props that this thing got, send them into the content zone. Perfect. And now what my editors can do is they can drop modules into this content zone. You might say, well, what's a module? Well, the most basic module is a rich text area, which is literally where it's also the most dangerous module, by the way. So this lets me just say, hey, you know what? Put content of any type of HTML, drop it in that module zone. So this is fun. This is bold, right? And this is the dangerous part. You actually are now giving them actual HTML that they can edit. So if they have lots of skills, then they can do crazy stuff. But it's nice to be able to get people to do like some formatting. So it's kind of like sometimes it's useful, sometimes not. All right, so let's save and close that. So now this rich text area module is going to be rendered in the content zone module. So if you want to actually dig into how that works, we can look into, agility/components. We actually show you how this works. There's a content zone module, and all it's doing is grabbing the page JSON, and it's got a zones object, and it just renders that, and it figures it out, dynamically does a reload, figures out all the component names and everything. So it kind of wires it together for you, so that what happens is, all I do is I put components in this folder called modules. And here's the one called rich text area. And it is super, super simple. Dangerously set inner HTML. We do have it going through a function called render HTML to make, basically, because I want to make sure that anytime I'm rendering HTML, I put it through a cleaner first. So I do have a very simple cleaner that we give you, so that if you want to make sure that no one's putting like nasty stuff in there, you could look at that. And basically take, the field is called text blob for this one, which is in my module definition, which I haven't looked at yet. But literally that's all it does. Basic. This is using a function component, but you can use whatever kind of component you want. And you can use like hooks, everything that goes into a React component is now my module. But I give him my editor such amazing, amazing power. Went to run a collection of children use an array instead. Sorry, we got an error. Hang on. Gatsby serve. Oh, so if you run Gatsby serve, that's if you haven't built it yet. So if you want to run Gatsby serve, you should run Gatsby build first. So that could be the problem, Bazit. Okay. So I haven't got through that full side of it. And if you're going to run Gatsby serve, you need to set up your production environment, which I don't think we have enough time to finish today. But we could do that. So you could, remember how we grabbed the live key and everything? You could set up all there. Catherine Pollock is up to date. Yes, she did it. Nice job. Wow. She's been racing to catch up. This is great. So yeah, to build a full Gatsby site locally, you run basically Gatsby build, and it basically builds it into the public folder. And when you run Gatsby serve, it's basically after you've done a build and you want to test it out locally, you run Gatsby serve on that. But if you run Gatsby serve after doing Gatsby develop, it'll get messed up because it doesn't have the right build stuff to run yet. So for now, just run Gatsby develop, and that should be good. I'll type the command in here in case everybody needs it. Gatsby develop, there you go. Hopefully we're all at the same spot, pretty much. All right, so we've got the rich text area on there, but let's look at another module. So back on here, you can see we've got 3 modules on here. One's called Jumbotron, and it has, like as I showed before, it's got 2 fields. Let's go see how this was defined in Agility. So I'm going to go back to the settings, go into module definitions, and look at this Jumbotron. By the way, we don't show the rich text module in the list of modules. It's one that's given to everybody. Some people just never use it. I don't know. We probably should show it at some point. So let's look at Jumbotron. So it's got basically a setup of a title. It's got a reference name. And this is the name that gets used to figure out which component to use to render it. And it's got a form builder with 2 fields. All right, let's look at one of those fields. So the fields, the name is title. It's got a label and a name. And then you can have like a ton of settings on this field. This comes back to what Agility calls content architecture, okay? And thinking about what are the things that we want to give our editors access to do so that they can get basically content into our code, right? So this is kind of like a database, a little bit like a schema, but not really, because I'm not going into SQL code or anything like that to get it. Literally, I type the names of the properties that I want to make available, and then they come down into my code, okay? So if I wanted to let's add another thing, another field onto here. Let's just call it that or whatever. Let's just call it, actually, let's do something fun. Let's do something really useful. I'm put an image field on here, all right? Let's put a little image in this thing. Let's choose field type image. Okay, and we could set it to be required, and we could set whether the alt text is, and there's a bunch of settings like it needs to be this size or this type or whatever. I'm gonna leave the defaults for now. I'm not gonna make it required either. It's just field type image, field name image, easy, okay? I'm gonna save and close this. It is going to give me an argument about it not being published. Don't worry too much about that. We do have the ability of like, I'm actually just going to publish this for now just to make the errors go away. What that is doing is like, if you don't have some code published and you change the definition of a module, it doesn't want you to get your code out of sync and stuff. So it's that's kind of a helpful, but a pain in the neck error that you get when you add fields to a module. But don't worry about that. Okay, let's go back to the page for a second. So we just added a field to our Jumbotron module. So now if I go back to the Jumbotron module, I can see, oh, there's no image on here yet. Let's upload an image. See if I can find something fun in my downloads. Let's look at what's in Joel's downloads. Let's find an iStock image. Fine, that's good. Gonna upload that. So one of the things Agility gives you too is basically a media library. So this is like a skyline. So now it's going to give me an image object on my piece of content. Okay. And it's also going to give me a warning saying this thing's over 300K because this is 4.6 megabytes. So I'll show you how to deal with that too. So now I do have to remember this is called image. So if I go look at that mod, just to find jumbotron.js, there it is. So right now I have an H1 and H2. I don't have an image tag. So let's put a div there to make a break. Let's put an image tag. It's going to need a source equals, okay, so what is it? Item dot custom fields is where the fields come through, dot image. And I think we call it dot URL, image. Okay. Oh man, that's really hard. Let's do the easy way. Let's comment at it for a second. I'm going to totally cheat. Console.log item.custom fields. It'll just tell me everything, okay? Then I have to remember to refresh my content. So I'm going to run this command. Remember this special command? There's two things I could do here. I could either stop and rerun Gatsby develop, in which case it'll pull it down. What about the background image? Adrian, smart thinking. I could do a background image too. Smart. Yeah, he suggested, hey, let's change the background image. But I can also just run this refresh command, which I love. Okay, I think I posted it to the window. So that's going to pull down. You can see I made a couple changes that it pulled down. Now it's there. So now if I just refresh my page, I think I'm here on localhost. I'm going to show my developer tools. Oh, someone's raised their hand. Bazit. Okay, we haven't done this yet. I'm going to allow you to talk. Oh wait, he put his hand down. Hi Bazit, how you doing? Oh, he muted himself. I'm going to unmute you.
It was mistakenly.
Oh, mistake? Okay, no worries. Hey, that's the first time I've ever tried doing a allow to talk inside a thing. So I'm going to mute you again. Disable talking. Thanks. Hey, now I just did another webinar feature. It's cool. If anyone does want to talk or have a question they want to actually ask or suggest, that works. Pretty cool. All right, back to here for a second. All right, so let's show my console. Oh my gosh, Magnet just crashed on me. All right, make this a little bit bigger. I'm using Safari. It doesn't matter if you use Safari or anything else. If you use, you can use Chrome as well. I sort of go between both of them, but I find Safari doesn't kill my battery as much. So let's go to should be on the home page. Oh, I got to show all. There it is. Okay, here it is. Here's my console.log. And you can see I've got the object that comes down. It's got a title, my subtitle, and my image. The alt text comes into a label field, and the image URL comes into URL. Okay, and this is how big it is. It's really big. All right, so let's do a little trick here. I'm going to put this. So let's. Oh, okay. If custom fields. Oh, this one I already set was set to use with a background image, but I called it image, not background image. So I'm going to change this to say, hey, if there's an actual image, then let's use that and put that here. And I'm going to output the, oops, sorry. If my custom fields property has an image, I'm going to output it, the image.url, and I'm going to put this special thing on there to say only do 1000 width. Okay, so because I don't really want to do a 4 megabyte background on my in my HTML. Okay, so that's one of the ways you can guard against like nasty things happening. Okay, so I'm not going to put it in my div. All right, let's see if this works. Oh my gosh, I didn't even have to update my code. That is crazy. I can't believe how well that worked. I didn't expect that to work so well because I forgot it was working. Yay! I hope that's as happy for you guys as it is for me. That makes me very happy to do that. Really cool. Okay, so we're able to see that. And we can build modules to do whatever we want. One of the demos that I want to do, I don't know if you guys have seen this library, Tailwinds, I think it's called Tailwinds UI. Okay, they are basically taking Tailwind CSS, which is amazing, and they are basically charging like, I don't know, a couple $100, and they're building all these components. So you can, and literally what these are, to me, this says, oh, this is a module. Because I can see I've got, you know, like a pre-title, an actual title, a caption, and I've got a list of some things with like whatever. I want to show this kind of content. Agility is perfect for this. This is exactly what a CMS needs, because I want to build, you know, how to output one of these and then let my marketing team go crazy and put as many of them on the website as they want. I do not want to be typing in the content of these things. The code looks a little wacky because like that's how Tailwinds works, but they did all this work. So I'll be putting together a tutorial of like how to use something like Tailwind UI, because I just think they did a great job putting together, making these responsive components, and literally they give you the code. So this is the test code that they give you is perfect. You could like basically copy and paste it, replace this with, you know, my title property or whatever. So very, very simple to work with that. So I can't wait to show that to you guys, because I think that will be really useful for developers to really quickly build a website of predefined components that like you could get a UI designer to build these for you or change your theme or whatever, and do a color palette and all sort of stuff. So as a developer, you're just working on the code. So I think that's really exciting. Going back here, let's look at one more thing that's super, super useful. And this is where we actually do a GraphQL query. And it's in our post listing. I'm going to show it in agility first, actually. So on this posts page, we have a module called posts listing. So this is listing our blog posts. And it's got a title, and it's got a linked content zone to show us, allows me to edit the posts right in line here, right? But there could be lots and lots of posts. So I want to be able to handle that with like a listing module, right? So remember we did this GraphQL, I can't remember where we did it, somewhere over here, of listing the posts. Well, what I did is I did this before, or whoever actually coded up this demo, and let's look at the post listing module, okay? So there's a post listing module, it just has basically a title as a field. You could check the module definition if you want. But then at the top, it uses a static query component. And this is the thing that's specific to Gatsby. I haven't seen anyone else use this, okay? And now this is a little extra crazy because it's using the image sharp component as well. But basically, it's reading the all image post section that we had up here. So that's like all agility post, I should say. And it actually is filtering it saying, hey, I only want stuff from this reference. Because you can actually create multiple lists of posts. I only want the one called posts. And it's only going to take 10 of them. Okay. This also should probably be doing a sort of a date field. Just take the most recent 10. And actually, if you're thinking of building something like that, you can actually build it here. So it goes sort, fields, pick the ID. It gives you like everything that I want. So you kind of got to scroll for a second. Custom fields. I think there's a date somewhere. Maybe not. There's no date. We didn't, oh yeah, no date. But I could do like last modified. Let's use the modified date, although that's not really the date, but whatever. And let's do, so if you had a date field, you can pick the date field. So this will order them by like a modified date descending. We could also do other things, but you can sort them, which is really useful. Okay, we can sort, we can filter, we can limit. I know the next question is, can we do paging? That's a different topic, but yes. Okay. So then it has, I'm grabbing content field, title, my details. It's doing this like local image thing. So this is that image sharp thing I told you about, where it's got this fluid image thing going on. You might want to do some reading about this one. This is like a deeper topic all in its own. I could just be pulling the image in if I wanted to, but this is trying to show a little deeper example. And it actually grabs the page path as well from that and references it all together, and then puts it into the posts listing, okay? And puts these nodes into there. So basically, I have another component that takes the output of that query, and that component happens to be right here. So we get two things. One, I get that module item that we had before, just like the Jumbotron, where I have like custom fields.title. So that was easy. And then there's actually another component called posts, and I just pass these posts right through into that. All right, so we're using like real nesting with React here. Pretty simple. And then, well, this is even more simple. For each post, I'm going to map it to a post component and pass in the content ID and the actual post. So the key is my content ID. And this is where it actually starts to get interesting. So now on this is really nicely done as an example, because it sort of really like digs down and doesn't make one component too crazy. So each post is just going to be a link. So this is a special Gatsby thing, as opposed to making an anchor tag, like an A tag. It uses this link tag so that when we actually click on the post, it doesn't reload the whole page. It basically just does a node like show and hide of components. It's really, really nice. So I say, hey, give me link to the actual details page for this, because this post actually shows up on the sitemap because it's a dynamic page. And then we're going to render out the post image. Okay, so it's got like a bunch of different things it does there. So it takes the image local, and it takes the label as well. So the actual alt tag, which we called label, and sends that down. So this whole image local image thing, which if you remember was way back up here, so this itself is like this fluid image. So that it'll actually send different sizes back to your browser. I won't get into how that works because it's more complicated. We have an H2 for the title of that post. And then we actually have a post excerpt component that pulls out the details. I'm going to just look at the post excerpt for a second. So what it does is so this is the post excerpt component. Again, super simple. All it's going to do is dangerously set inner HTML of that post details, but it's going to truncate it. So I'm only going to show 160 characters and strip the tags out of it, okay? I actually prefer having an excerpt that the editors can type into, but in this case, we only have like 3 fields on these posts, right? So this is taking the details if we have it and truncating it, doing whatever. Again, if you want to do it a different way, that's totally cool. This is just an example of how to render. I hope this is making sense for folks who are especially decent with React. Gatsby helps you get good at React for rendering stuff. And in the post image, it basically uses the Gatsby's image tag. So it is actually super simple. The query for getting it was the trickier part, but you have an example for doing that now, so it all works. So when I look at this, how it gets rendered on my post listing page, I'm actually going to go to the post page. So here we are, they're rendered like this. And if I'm just going to view my inspect element here, hang on, I'm on my wrong browser tab. This is my localhost one. Here we go. Let's look at the post page. There it is there. So let's just actually look at my network here. Clear that. Let's refresh this for a second and just look at images. So it does a good job of making sure the images are really, really small. That's running from memory, so it's not showing everything. But this is not showing it very well. It basically does fluid resizing for these images to make sure that a big image doesn't render first. It renders a very tiny image first that comes down in the actual HTML. So that's Gatsby Image Sharp, which is a thing. You don't need to use it. I could just be rendering out, oh, sorry, where's my code here for a second? I could just be rendering out an actual like image. So I could use, just like this, img source equals, like I showed you before, just outputting it like that. So there's 2 schools of thought on how to do images. One is like, hey, just do it the basic way, as I showed in the Jumbotron module, where we just say, hey, get image.url. But the other one is like, hey, let's manipulate it a little bit to use image sharp. And then image sharp actually pulls it down and does a bunch of manipulation on it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. There's only one other thing that I haven't shown yet, which is does that new page actually work? About us. So let's take a look at that. So I should be able to see if that shows up, and I can't remember if it did. I think it did. About us. It just automatically showed up on this menu. Well, how in the heck did that happen? So let's look at that. This is that header module, which we haven't looked at much. Okay, so it's the cool thing about the header, it's not a module, it's a component. The header shows up on every single page, right? It never changes. It's like, it's always there, right? So it's not part of a page structure. It's just like shared content in Agility. Let's look into the shared content section for how we're doing this. So what I wanted to do is I have this global content item, okay? So there's the content definition for this. Let's look at that too. Jumping all over the place here. So we looked at module definitions before. Let's look at content definitions. So a content definition is almost exactly the same, except it doesn't let us build a module. It doesn't render. It just is content, right? So we have a definition for our post, and just looking at that one real quick. It has a content, you know, it's of type content list. It can be a list or an item. It has a name, and it has like 3 fields, right? Very, very small. It didn't have a date field. I thought it might, but it doesn't. Okay, and that's pretty much all it is. There's a few other settings, but you know, they're a little more like for tweaking. So there's 3 fields. If I wanted to add more fields, like a date onto here, I could totally do that. And I pick my type. Now, and so basically, as I said before, you can set up the schema for the whole back end of your content through here. But for this one, for my global header, I have this content item. It literally has just one thing on it. So it's only going to be a single item. It's not a list. We only want one of them for my whole site, and it's the global header. And it has one thing on it called site name. The thing that I might add would be something like a logo to put on a header. Most people do something like that, where they have a logo and it's an image. And I could even say, you know what, I only want to use an SVG logo because I want to be super, super lean. And it needs to be, you know, smaller than, I don't know, like 50 kilobytes. You could do something like that, right? So I could put my site name and my logo. I could put all kinds of stuff on there. There doesn't seem to be anything for like showing what's on the sitemap though. How does that work? Let's go take a look at what's happening in the output. I'm going to save this with the new logo just for fun. Okay, let's go back to our shared content where we actually use that. So how did this get into shared content? Well, someone had to basically create an instance from that definition. So the definition defines basically the schema for the content. That's the content type. And then you actually have to create an instance of that content. And you can do multiple instances. If I wanted to have multiple headers, I could totally do it. So here's what I'm going to choose. I only look at content items, create a header, and I could make a second header if I needed to have multiple headers for different things. Header 2. Okay, so and when we created the posts, we did the same thing for a content list. So I can have multiple lists of posts. So if I wanted to have like, you know, posts from like a year ago, maybe from 2019, here's my old list of posts or something. If I have a hugely expanding list of blog posts that I want to handle, something like that. There's literally tons and tons of things you can do with content. You can create any kind of content that you want. Looking at this global header. All right, so the sitemap is called Headless Sandbox. I hate that name. Let's call it June 4th demo. Let's upload. Let's see if I have an SVG browser, SVG somewhere. Oh, I didn't show this yet. Remember before I just clicked upload and I just chose it directly from my local file system? But you also have a repository of all these images if I click browse. Okay, so clicking browse here is the same as clicking over here on assets. So this shows me all the things that have been put in there. And every time I upload an attachment, if I just choose like upload and there's no default folder, it goes into like what's called new items, and there's sort of anything. Or I can actually create my own folder. So if I wanted to do a folder called like SVG, wanted to keep things like really organized, I could totally do that or whatever. This is only going to show me SVGs, by the way. So it's like, wait, where are all the rest of the attachments? There are no SVGs that I have. I'm going to have to upload one. So on here, you click upload. Let's see if I can find one. I'm pretty sure I have an icon from Agility that's an SVG somewhere. I don't know if it's any good. It's white. Logo, they're all, is there a yellow? Well, anyway, maybe we'll try that. Who cares? All right. White doesn't show very well on white. Anyway, okay, so we have my logo. Boom. All right. Let's save that. Now we've got our content in there. I'm going to refresh my content so I don't forget. I'm going to do that and refresh it. And you can actually look in here and say, hey, they pulled one item in. So I can make sure that it's all happening okay. Cool. Close down some stuff. I can see there's no, remember that agility page that we talked about before? This will show me all of the components that are not modules that are being loaded. So I have an SEO component, preview bar, oh, global header, here we go. Let's find out where that is. Global header is up here and it's under components/global header. Cool. Global header. And the way we've laid this out is it's using CSS files. I absolutely recommend using something like SAS or SCSS or less for your CSS files. Since we didn't want to basically say what you have to use, we just went with straight CSS. Very easy to convert though. But if you look at this one, hey, we have another static query happening. And it's querying the agility global header item, okay? And it's pulling the site name field. Well, here's a fun trick. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna go over to my GraphQL and replace what's there. And remember, each of these queries, one of these things, they all have a unique name. They have to have a unique name. So here we go. Here's my June 4th demo site name that I pulled down. Okay, I got that. And then it actually pulls down the sitemap. That's how it knows what the pages are. And it's pulling only pages that are in like the base of the sitemap to show in the header. Ah, smart. But wait, I want my other thing, what was I call it? I have to refresh this page. I called it image or something or logo. Oh wait, there it is. I refresh the page, it shows up. And I'm gonna need my URL and I'm gonna need my label. Cool. Now we're getting somewhere. So I can just copy. Now I've got this. I copy it again. So I was able to like confirm that this is going to work. It's all good. So if GraphQL, by the way, was like, oh my gosh, how do I do GraphQL? I don't know what's in my data. Gatsby makes that super easy by giving you that GraphQL editor to say, boom, this is how you find all your stuff. And you can kind of discover it and figure it out and dig through it, which is fun. Paste that into here. That looks good. So I've got my new query that's basically pulling my reference name global header. This is where I said, hey, maybe if I had multiple headers, I would just basically say, maybe this was, global header 2 that I wanted on this particular page or whatever. People come up with all kinds of crazy stuff they do. And then I want to use now my logo, URL, and label. Let's just put that in there. Okay, so in here, it's basically building this thing called view model. This is still inside the static query component. Let's make this a little bigger. Okay, and basically it's pulling in everything under agility global header, okay, which was that. Okay, so it's going to give me a custom field, site name, and logo. Let's remember that. And then I've got this menu thing, and it's basically it's filtering out everything that only has one slash. There's a much better way of doing sitemaps, but I'm not going to get into it right now. But this is one way to do it, and it does totally work. And then I'm going to render my global header component. And I'm going to render and basically pass that view model right into it. So now it's going to have basically something called menu links. We call it menu links and item. Okay. This is a class-based component, not a function component. I prefer function components, but you can do either one. Okay. So here you go. This is going to be props.menu links. The other one's going to be props.item.custom fields. And then, so let's, I don't know. This is already set it up. This one has a thing called home inside a link. I'm actually going to switch that up, put an image in there, source equals, see if I can remember this, oh geez, this dot props dot item dot custom fields dot logo dot URL alt equals, oh geez. Dot label. All right, I'm going to save it. Oh, if this works, it'll be some kind of awesome. Oh my goodness, it worked. Yay, there you go. Now, I have some white text in my SVG, but whatever. So there you go. I was able to really easily update it and show it in there, and it works great. So that, I think we went through, let me just double check. I don't remember what else we wanted to actually show. Oh yeah. So we were able to look at Agility CMS content and Agility CMS pages. Amazing stuff. to basically get going. We went through how agility works, with showing like how it actually basically takes your content from plugins. And it could be, by the way, almost all plugins generate some kind of GraphQL, and some of them basically find ways to get basically data into your components with props, really with the two kind of things that they do. But they can do other things as well, like generate files for you and manipulate images and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then I showed you basically how agility works in terms of giving you the ability to define page templates and module definitions and some global components that you can combine together to give your editors, basically the main thing is you're giving your editors power. You're empowering like your marketing team to be able to come into this CMS tool and they type in content and images and do all sorts of stuff based on the fields that you've given them. So you say, hey, I'm gonna have a title field and a description and an image and a logo and all these things. And then you say, hey, go edit those things. That's how you edit the website. Click preview and it'll preview into the, you know, the agility into the Gatsby dashboard, right? So just coming back to that, we've made a whole bunch of changes here, and you can see in my GitHub thing, what I can actually check these changes in, and we can see the change in Gatsby. So it's like, let's make a little thing here, you know, just like various updates, terrible check-in message. So let's actually sync that up. You can use the command lines as well, it doesn't really matter. So this is automatically going to my master branch. And it's automatically going to go and, if I can find my Gatsby dashboard, you can see it queued an update already in Gatsby. So so basically it's reading that check-in. It's going to do an update here for the production. The production build will take a little longer. The preview build, usually, it's a little longer than the webhook build, let's say that. So like these ones are like, you know, less than 5 seconds. The main build, again, this one was 37 seconds. It's usually dependent on the site, actually. Could be anywhere from 30 seconds to like, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes, depends. So this is a pretty small site, it's only 30 seconds. If I actually preview it now, view the preview engine, there you go. It's pretty small. Gives me my updated content, my updated stuff. It's all there. Yay. Did all that. Now, we want to deploy this thing, right? Gatsby does not give us a deployment. It only gives us the preview. Oh, and this build failed. I'm not sure exactly what happened here. The good thing is I do have a good build that actually worked. This one, which was the previous build. I'm not going to get into why the build failed. The way to debug that, by the way, is you can run Gatsby build locally and see what happens, and if it fails, whatever. I'll debug that if I have time, but I don't want to go too deeply into that right now. I didn't even know if I'd get this far. We got 13 minutes left. By the way, any questions so far? If you guys have any questions, I really, really want to answer them. We've gone through so much material, and you guys have been an awesome audience, but I want to make sure that I cover anything. Okay, I'm not seeing anything come up so far, so I'm gonna push forward. Okay, here we go. Whew. We're in the site settings. The sun just came out, by the way, and it just got really, really warm in here. All right. So there's lots of settings, as I said. We have webhooks for the preview and builds. I went through how to do those, so we're all good with that. By the way, this is where you control the access under access control for your preview. So you can actually set up, like if you want to do password protected on there or login required, whatever, you can do that there. Then we go to, oh, by the way, you can do incremental builds. Incremental builds mean that it doesn't do a full rebuild of your site when you change content. This is on the full build, so that's cool. If this is a little tricky sometimes, I actually have it turned off on the Agility CMS website because there was like some problem with it. So it's a very, very new feature, but it is really, really awesome. And I think they've fixed all the bugs, so it's pretty cool. Integrations, I think where we want to go. And then, so there's automated integrations of which, and then there's like a few CMSs, other CMSs, and then there's like manual integrations. You don't have to do any of these because you've already got all this, you've done all this work. Nice, David, it's working. Cool. People are getting stuff done here. Hosting integrations. This is the money right here. Okay, this is like how you get from, hey, I did all this work. It's on a build server. It's on Gatsby Cloud. Now I'm going to get it to an actual web server. Okay, and there's a bunch of different options. The two that I've spent the most time with are Netlify and Vercel. I'm going to do a whole nother training session that focuses just on Vercel and Next, because Next is like another framework that I would put, right up there with Gatsby. It's amazing too. So let's not use Vercel right now. Come back to that. We're using Netlify. So I'm going to click connect. I'm going to connect it to Netlify, which means that I have to have a Netlify account, but you can create an account again with, popped up a window, here it is. It's like, hey, we're accessing Netlify on your behalf. So this actually, I'm logged into Netlify now. This is a app.netlify.com. I had created an account based on my GitHub. I'm going to authorize it. Yep. Gatsby Cloud, go do your thing. What I want my site to be called, I'm going to call this June 4. Wait, June 3? I don't even know what day it is. It is June the 3rd. Holy smokes. I'm good. Which Netlify team? I only have one. My Joel Vardy team. Create. Here we go. It is now connected. All right. So this is that CDN portion, that we talked about before in here, where it's like, hey, you want to get your site onto a CDN. This is blob storage plus CDN all in one. So I'm connected to Netlify. Awesome. Let's go back to our builds. Production. Oh, geez. And my build is failing. I really need to figure out why my build is failing now, because it won't go on to Netlify. All right, here we go. I did something wrong. Oh, you know what it is? I haven't published my content, and it can't. So this is one of the things that I don't like about. This is one of the things I don't like about Gatsby. If I have, there's no way to say there's like a null field. That's a kind of annoying thing. So because my logo, I haven't published that new logo field, it's not going to basically let anything build. So I'm going to publish it. Publish that. Now that I've got a published version of that, I should be okay, but I'm going to make sure I publish the other changes that I've done too, because they were cool. I think I also had Jumbotron. Here's a fun thing. On my page, if I publish a page, this is an agility thing, it will actually publish all the modules under that page too. So here I'm going to get my home page, I'm going to publish that, and you can see, hey, it's doing something. It's processing and doing fun things in the background. So what that's doing is taking it and saying, hey, I have my version history of my page now. Hey, I'm good. I'm published. And if you see the history, Agility keeps the track of everything I've ever done. You can see there's been quite a few things. It also keeps track of everything you've done for every piece of content as well. So I've got the history. So if I actually made a mistake and wanted to go back to, some previous version of something, you can always do that. That's cool. Now, since I don't have any webhooks set up, I'm going to have to manually trigger a build, which I'm okay with because I don't want to burn through people's preview or free Gatsby accounts with this yet. So there's two, when I go trigger build, so I'm on preview, trigger build, I can clear cache and build a master branch, which is the same. If I go back here, let's stop this for a second. So that, there's kind of like Gatsby CLI stuff running in the background. There's a command called Gatsby clean. Okay, if you want to actually test your local site in live mode, after you've been doing development mode, you got to go clean. Right, so what that does is it cleans basically just these directories. And then if you run Gatsby build, after you've got your env.production set up, by the way, you run Gatsby build, click go, that is like doing a full build. So this is what Gatsby pretty much is doing here. So that is like Gatsby clean, Gatsby build. I don't want to do it clean. I just wanted to build my master branch. When you do a clean, it has to pull down all the content again, okay? So Agility has this idea of a delta for content. So it only pulls down what changed. So let's just jump into this log here and just sort of wait with bated breath to make sure that it's all going to work. So you can actually watch the raw logs, which is how you can kind of tell what it's doing. No logs. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hey, nice. So you can see my page sync returned 2 items. So I had like 2 pages. I had, content sync returned 4 items. So it only pulled down what changes. So that's how Agility can be so fast underneath here. And it's going to do my changes, and it's going to do an incremental. Will I be sharing the recording? That's an awesome question. Yes, I will be sharing this recording. So I'm currently recording this on my local computer. I'm going to get my marketing team to upload it to YouTube and to make sure that I didn't, do anything bad on it. But yes, it will be on there because I know I've gone fast here to try and get through in the last few minutes a whole bunch of stuff. My build is done. Oh my gosh, and it deployed to Netlify in 2 seconds. So that's pretty cool. So I've got this URL, So this is not a URL that it's going to change, right? So this is not my deployment URL. But I want to find what's my Netlify URL. Hang on, let's just close all these tabs because I got too much going on here. How do I find that? Okay. Now you guys might not have actually, this is one of the things, it doesn't tell me where it deployed to Netlify. Okay, that's one of the things. Oh, by the way, it also did a Lighthouse score. This is not so bad, 95 in the Lighthouse score. That's kind of cool. Gatsby does that by default, by the way, which is pretty neat. I have to actually log into Netlify to find this. So netlify.com, log in. So again, you could be pushing it to, I think there's S3, there's Vercel, there's Fastly, whatever. So you can see, by the way, Agility CMS website is currently on Netlify. There's my June 3rd. So like june-3.netlify.app. Well, let's check it out. Hey, it works. There you go. Now I have my site. And all these, this is a pretty cool hosting provider because now it has lots of other stuff I can do on the site, including setting up the domains for it. But also, if I click on deploys, it keeps me every version of this site that was deployed. Okay, so one of the nice things about JAMstack is it does what's called atomic builds. Okay, so while Gatsby and Agility have this cache thing where it only, as I change stuff, it only downloads what's different in terms of the build server. In terms of what actually gets deployed to Netlify, pushes the whole thing every time. And Netlify is smart enough that it doesn't do work that it doesn't need to do, so it goes pretty fast most of the time. Sometimes it can chug and go a little slower. And I'll be able to tell you more about Vercel because I'm actually going to deploy the Agility website on Vercel and see how a live website goes on there too, so I can compare and contrast what I think are sort of the two top hosting providers right now for JAMstack. Netlify is amazing. Vercel, I don't know yet, but I think it's pretty cool too. I've done development on there, but not live deploys. But it keeps all your deployments right here, okay? Now, Netlify also has its own build operation and all kinds of other features and stuff like that that Gatsby's not taking too much advantage of. However, it does do some checking. So if you actually deploy HTML code that Netlify thinks, I think you might have some problems in here or some broken stuff, it'll tell you and actually notify you, which is pretty cool. So it does some checks on it too. It's a really cool product. And the ability to be able to go into each individual thing here, and you can actually preview this deploy, is pretty cool. So each deploy is going to have its own URL that it'll have. So you can go back, and if you find that, oh my goodness, we published something we shouldn't have, you can actually revert manually. So that's pretty cool. So I think I've come to even more stuff than I thought I would cover. So that's amazing. I want to basically do a little plug for Twitter. So the best place to follow us is on Twitter. So Agility is at Agility CMS. Gatsby, follow them at GatsbyJS, and myself at Joel Vardy. So we'll make sure that the recording gets posted to either Agility CMS and or the at Joel Vardy. They'll probably be on both, okay, for this one. But also follow along. We do webinars every couple of weeks, and we're going to be doing training. I don't have the next training posted, but we're going to be doing another one soon. It'll probably be a 101 with Next as opposed to with Gatsby. But then I might do like a JAMstack 200 to do something a little more advanced potentially. So we'll look at that, okay? So yeah, definitely follow along. Let's continue the conversation, continue the learning. So the Agility Days webinars, they're every couple of weeks, agilitycms.com/events to learn about those. And there's ones that there's two tracks. There's a digital leaders track, and then there's a developers track that'll go through developer stuff. And the next event, I believe, is about Node middleware. So it's more deep into Node with one of our development partners. So great stuff. I am super impressed at how you guys have followed along and been able to keep up and been able to put up with me making mistakes and stuff like that. But this has been really great as an experience. So thank you so much. Thanks for coming. Any other questions that I've missed, please reach out to me. I think my DMs are open on Twitter, or you can just @ me, or you can reach out by email. This has been a really great opportunity to connect with you guys and to teach and to learn about the kind of problems that you guys might be having with Agility. So do reach out. I want to know one last thing. I want to know if something didn't work the way you thought it should, or if there's like, well, I wish it did this. Why doesn't Agility do that? Or JAMstack is all about this. Why didn't you talk about this side of something that's important? I do want to hear about that too. So reach out on Twitter, or I think my email address is actually on the website somewhere. But reach out, get in touch, and let's continue learning together. And thanks, everybody.